I've been at Nexora for over a decade. I've seen it all, restructuring, layoffs, the usual corporate circus, but through it all, I've managed to stay on top. Senior Systems Architect. That's been my title for years, and I've earned every word of it. But then Sean Mitchell shows up. He's younger than me, by a good 10 years, maybe more, and walks into the room like he owns the place. Designer suit, shiny shoes, the whole 9 yards. No idea what the company actually does, but sure, he's got the swagger. They make him CEO, and it's clear right away. This guy thinks he's the smartest one in the room. We all pile into the conference room for his first big meeting. He's got his agenda ready, rattling off these grand plans like he's already won the game. He talks about changes, big ones, like we're all just waiting for his brilliant insight. He starts tossing around words like innovation and fresh perspectives, without even understanding how the systems we've built keep this place running. And then it happens. He looks at me and says, "So, we've got the tech guy here, right? Tech guy? That's what I am to him? Not the senior systems architect who designed the infrastructure this company runs on. No, I'm just some guy who knows how to fix things when they break. I feel a sharp pinch in my gut, but I don't react. I've been in this game long enough to know that most of these types don't last long." Sean goes on, announcing that he's canceling meetings that have been on the calendar for months, like they're nothing. The team's been working on those projects for ages. He has no respect for the work we've put in. But hey, I've seen it before. Another flashy new CEO who'll be gone in a year or two, replaced by the next one. No big deal. But then, the layoffs start. 2 senior engineers are out by Friday, and Sean brings in a few new people. People he likes, people who probably don't even know what a network protocol is. And me? I'm just sitting here, pushed further into the background of a company I helped build. This isn't going well, and I can feel it in my bones, but I tell myself to keep cool. He'll screw up soon enough, I think. They always do. By the end of the week, Sean's cut 2 key people from the team without so much as consulting me. This is it. It's happening. I start gathering everything I can, documenting every decision, every misstep. I'm not waiting for this guy to mess things up further. I'm preparing for whatever comes next, because I know one thing for sure. Things are about to get bad, and I don't think Sean has the slightest clue how bad. The email came through Friday morning. Sean would like to speak with you privately at 10:30. No context, no agenda, just that. I walked into his office right on time. He didn't even bother looking up from his laptop. "Mike, thanks for coming," he said, all fake casual, like we were catching up over coffee. "Let's keep this quick." I stayed standing. He leaned back in his chair, folded his hands, and said it flat out. "We've decided to eliminate your role as senior systems architect, effective immediately. No warning, no preamble, just like that." My stomach dropped, but I didn't flinch. I kept my face still, not because I wasn't feeling it, because I was. But I wasn't giving this guy the satisfaction. Sean kept talking, like he'd rehearsed every word. "We're heading in a different direction, strategically. Your contributions were appreciated, but they no longer align with where we're going." "Where you're going, huh? Straight off a cliff, but sure." He paused like I was supposed to thank him. I said nothing. Just looked at the man sitting there in his $1,000 suit, firing people whose work he couldn't begin to understand. Then came the kicker. "You'll receive a severance package via HR later today. Let's make this transition smooth." Smooth. I almost laughed. This man had no clue what I actually did here. None. He didn't even know the system he was about to cripple. But instead of unloading on him, I nodded once, walked over, and held out my hand. He shook it like it meant something. The gesture felt hollow as hell, but I knew how this game worked. Optics. I wasn't going to give him any ammo. I turned and walked out. Didn't say a word. My mind was already moving. They'd just fired the one person holding the keys to the machine. And I mean that literally. I built the core infrastructure, the licenses, the access, the documentation, all tied to me. And the kicker? That license expired Monday. This coming Monday. They had no idea. I went home early that day, poured a drink, sat at my desk, and opened my laptop. No anger, no panic, just clarity. They made their move. Now it was my turn. I drafted the email carefully, straight to the legal department. No fluff. Subject: licensing term. Agreement notification. As of Sunday evening, the company's legal right to operate the core systems I architected will expire. This includes all external platforms, client dashboards, and internal tools tied to the current infrastructure. Please ensure compliance with licensing terms outlined in my original contract, sections 4 and 7. Regards, Mike Sullivan. I hit send. This wasn't about revenge. This was about leverage, and I had all of it. Saturday felt like the calm before a storm you can feel in your bones. I didn't want to waste a single second of it. There was no turning back now. I spent the morning reaching out to my attorney just to double-check everything about the licensing agreement. The last thing I needed was a loophole slipping through my fingers. My lawyer confirmed it all. Crystal clear, everything was solid. The company had no legal right to access the systems after midnight on Sunday. They were running out of time. Sunday afternoon, the calls started coming in. HR wanted clarification on the severance package, some weird questions about the contract details. I didn't pick up. No point. I'd already made my move, and there was nothing more to discuss. I opened my laptop one last time and checked my email. Subject: Mike, we need to talk. It was from Sean. Of course. He wanted to meet. Again. I didn't even bother opening the message. His desperation was starting to show through. I closed the laptop and set it aside. I wasn't answering him. Not today. Not anymore. Instead, I spent the evening off the grid. I didn't need to stare at my phone, didn't need to listen to people scramble. I needed the silence, the space to clear my head before the mess started. The company was about to panic. I was calm. Too calm. By 9 p.m., I started hearing the notifications. Ping after ping. They came in steady, like a drumbeat. Downtime, client-facing platforms offline, internal tools malfunctioning. I didn't check the details, didn't need to. The systems I built were starting to fail, and Sean had no idea why. The phone rang almost immediately. I saw the name pop up. Legal department. I ignored it. A few minutes later, another call. Sean's office. Same thing. I let it ring. I could almost hear the panic setting in. Even from here, the company that had fired me less than 48 hours ago was now depending on me, and they were desperate. But I wasn't about to fix their mess without something in return. I knew exactly what they were going to do next, and it wasn't going to be pretty. Still, I wasn't worried. This was the plan, and it was working exactly as I'd hoped. Monday morning hit like a slap in the face. My inbox was a disaster, flooded with emails about system outages. Client dashboards down, internal tools not working. It felt almost too perfect, like the universe had decided to hand me the exact moment they'd been asking for. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Nate. He worked in product development, and I hadn't talked to him in a while. Mike, what the hell is going on? Everyone's freaking out. Full crisis mode. No one can figure out why the systems are offline. I couldn't help but smile a little. Nate had always been a smart guy, but he was on the wrong side of this one. A moment later, my phone rang. Sean's name lit up the screen. I answered, knowing exactly what was coming. Mike, he said, his tone too calm for someone in full panic mode. What's happening? Why are all the systems down? I leaned back in my chair and said it flatly without any emotion. You can't run this company without the system I built. There was silence on the other end, then he stumbled over his words. Mike, look, I never got any documentation about the licensing agreement. You should have... Stop playing games, I cut him off. I sent you an email 2 days ago. You got it. You just didn't care enough to read it. I could hear him shifting in his chair, probably looking for some way to shift blame. Okay, he said, trying to sound reasonable. Look, we need you. Come back as a consultant. We'll sort this out. I paused for a second, letting him sweat it out. I'll come back, but it's not going to be on your terms anymore. My voice was steady, but my mind was already calculating. I'll negotiate a new deal, but you're going to pay a hell of a lot more than you expect. There was a long pause. Sean didn't like being cornered. I could tell by the way he was fumbling for words. Before he could say anything else, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Nate. I ignored it, letting the tension build in Sean's voice. You don't get it, Mike, he said, almost pleading now. Please just come back. The systems are failing and we need you. I'm not helping unless we agree on my terms, I said, calm as ever. No deal, no help. Simple as that. There was more silence from Sean's side. I could almost hear his mind racing, trying to figure out how to crawl out of the mess he'd created. Meanwhile, the company was spiraling, and I was holding the keys. I wasn't angry, not yet, but I was sure as hell enjoying this power. It was all in my hands now. The clock was ticking, and I wasn't backing down. I walked into the legal department's conference room at 10 a.m. Sharp. The tension hit me as soon as I crossed the threshold. There was no mistaking it. The table was set, but Sean wasn't there. I didn't expect him to be. This was his mess, but he was too busy hiding behind the legal team now. The room was full of the usual suspects, 2 or 3 higher-ups from legal, a couple of executives trying to keep their heads down. probably wondering how they'd ended up here. Everyone was trying to play nice, exchanging fake pleasantries like nothing was wrong. But I didn't waste time with pleasantries. I came for one reason, and they knew it. I pulled out the chair, sat down, and got straight to it. "Here's the deal I'm offering," I said, leaning forward slightly. $1 million for the next year. You'll get regular updates on the system, and a public acknowledgement of my role in building it. A few of them blinked, trying to hide their surprise. But the general counsel, mid-50s, thin-lipped, and dressed like he'd just come from a golf course, leaned forward. "Mike, with all due respect, that's a bit steep. We can't justify a figure like that." I didn't flinch. "Then you'll be explaining to your clients why their dashboards aren't working, why everything you've built crumbles without me. I know what my systems are worth. You don't have the luxury of time to play games with this." The general counsel opened his mouth to respond, but I cut him off. "You want to keep the company from falling apart? You'll meet my terms." The room went quiet. I could feel the weight of their stares, but I held my ground. I knew what I had, and I wasn't about to let them lowball me. Not now. A young woman in the back, Dana from legal, cleared her throat. "What if we offer $500,000 for 6 months instead? We could work on a longer-term deal once we've stabilized things." I couldn't help but laugh. "That's not even close," I said, shaking my head. "Not for what you're asking me to fix. If you want to save your reputation, your clients, your stock, hell, even your careers, you'll have to pay more than that." There was another long silence. The general counsel looked around the room, probably gauging whether anyone would dare to speak up. I didn't move, didn't blink. This was my moment. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the general counsel nodded. "All right, Mike, we'll meet your price, but there will be some adjustments." He glanced toward the door like Sean was going to come running in any second. "We'll need to keep Sean's ego intact." I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. "Fine, but you know the deal. No adjustments without my consent." They all agreed, reluctantly, but I could tell they knew they had no other option. As they shuffled their papers, Dana shot me a look, somewhere between respect and desperation. I knew this wasn't over, but it was a damn good start, and I'd won the first round. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from Nate. He was still in the trenches, trying to hold things together, while Sean tried to rewrite the story. "Mike, you won't believe this. Sean is telling the board it was all a misunderstanding. He's painting you as the bad guy. They want to meet with you. Expect a call tomorrow morning." I couldn't help but smile. Sean's desperation was showing. But I wasn't worried. I had the paper trail, and I knew exactly what I was walking into. The next morning, I got the call. They wanted me in the boardroom at 10 p.m. Sean would be there too. I didn't know what to expect, but one thing was clear. I wasn't the dismissed employee anymore. I was the guy with the answers. I walked into the boardroom feeling steady. Sean was already there, looking like he'd aged 5 years overnight. His shoulders were stiff, his face tight with tension. But the room was focused on me now. I was no longer invisible. The chair of the board, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, looked at me and said, "Mike, we've asked you here to explain your position. Please, go ahead." I didn't hesitate. "Here's what happened," I said, looking around the room at the board members. "Sean came in, thought he knew everything, and didn't bother to learn about the systems that run this company. He didn't respect the people who built them, and worse, he didn't check the legal terms before firing me. That's why we're here." Sean opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. "You can save your excuses," I said, my voice steady. "The systems are still running only because of the work I did. Without me, you're done. And I'm not playing the blame game with you. This is on you." The room was quiet. You could feel the tension hanging in the air. Sean looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. After a long silence, the chair of the board nodded. "Thank you for your insight, Mike. We need to deliberate. Please step outside while we discuss the matter." I stood up, my mind clear. I wasn't here for revenge. I was here to make sure the company got the leadership it deserved. I walked out of the room and waited in the hallway, trying to keep my cool. This was it, the moment where everything shifted. I walked back into the boardroom, with a calm I hadn't expected to feel. Sean wasn't there. The chair of the board looked at me with a steady gaze, then turned to address the room. "Mike," she said, her voice firm, "we've reviewed the situation thoroughly. After careful consideration, we've decided to place Sean Mitchell on administrative leave, pending further review of his conduct." The words hit me like a wave, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like the truth finally breaking through. The company's mess had been exposed, and Sean had no way out. I'd said my piece, and now the chips were falling exactly where they should. She continued, her tone shifting just a little. "In addition, we are accepting your terms for the licensing agreement. We acknowledge your significant contributions in building this company's core infrastructure. Thank you for your patience. The acknowledgement was almost too much to absorb in one breath, but I nodded. There was nothing left to prove. They knew exactly what I had done for this place. Thank you, I said, feeling the weight of it all settle in. That's all I've ever wanted. I turned to leave, but before I could make it out the door, Dana from legal stepped into my path. She was smiling, almost relieved. Mike, congratulations, she said, her voice quiet but sincere. You've really turned this around. The company's already talking about restructuring leadership training. They're going to make sure something like this never happens again. I raised an eyebrow. You think they'll really change? Dana paused, then shrugged slightly. It's a start, a big one. They know they messed up, and this is the first step in fixing it. I didn't say anything, but I could feel a shift in the air. The company wasn't fixed. Hell, I wasn't sure it ever would be. But for the first time, there was a chance. A real one. I walked out of the building, head held high. The sun was out, and the air felt different today, like the weight of all that corporate bullshit had lifted just a little. Nexora had given me everything I could take from it. I'd done my part, and now it was time to walk away. And as I left, I didn't look back. Not this time.